the suspense will be, I don't know, Rece, or will there be any suspense? Good afternoon. Great to have you on.
Thanks, Paul. Not at the top. I don't think there's any question that Georgia will and should be number one, because I've heard some of the things that you've had to say and that others have had to say about what happened this past weekend. And while Georgia was already the reigning national champion, I think the real changing of the guard in terms of the current standard bearer, because Georgia still needs to win some more championships and do this for another decade or so before we call them a dynasty. But the standard bearer at this moment in time is Georgia, because Georgia did what Alabama has built their reputation on doing. A challenger, an interloper came into their place, and they put a hobnail boot in their face, and they put them back in their place by Georgia standards. They dominated the game physically. So there was a shift in the standard bearers for college football that was culminated. It was moving in that direction, starting with that national championship game in Indianapolis, but it culminated on Saturday. Georgia is now the program in this moment in time against who everyone else tries to measure themselves.
How interesting. And just hearing that, even though I think most of us have believed it, I think is a little chilling to think about the times we are living in. Rece Davis joining us from College Game Day. Rece, tomorrow night, I know there'll be a lot of factors. We know where Georgia will be. There'll be a Michigan, Ohio State. What do you think happens after the two Big Ten schools in Georgia?
I will tell you how I would rank them. I would still have Tennessee 4, because I think Tennessee is I think they're a little better than TCU. But it's a reasonable thing if you have TCU 4, for sure. And if TCU wins its games, remains undefeated and Big 12 champion, they're going to move ahead of somebody and go to the playoff. The bigger question becomes, what if you have a one-loss TCU as Big 12 champion? What would be their stock? I think they would still be worthy, depending on how that loss looked and how they looked the rest of the way. But it won't be as much of a slam dunk. I suspect that Tennessee is going to be 4 and TCU is going to be 5, and it'll be Ohio State, Michigan 2 and 3. At least that's what I think.
As we get through this weekend, obviously the TCU conundrum will be solved one way or the other, but there's so many other unknowns. And as you talk to the committee chairman, I know that you can't, we have a diminishing pool now with Clemson in dire straits. Alabama would take something short of a miracle. What do you think as this committee is meeting right now? What do you think they are wrestling with?
Probably where to place Tennessee first. And I would think the other thing that they're evaluating is Oregon. And how do you stack up that 46-point loss at the hands of Georgia? Now, on the scoreboard, Tennessee only lost by 14. But in my judgment of watching both games, that was every bit the beatdown that Georgia over Oregon was. It just didn't get quite as out of hand on the scoreboard. Rain, running the clock, style of offense, whatever it was, probably contributed to that. But Georgia dominated both of them. So do you just go by the fact that the final margin was closer, even though in my judgment watching the game, both of them were overwhelming butt kickings? So how did those two teams stack up? Can you live with a team with that type of margin of loss on its resume being ranked that high? And, what do you do with the other Pac-12 teams? What type of chance do they have? I think that's the biggest wrestling point to me, because I think 1, 2, 3 are pretty clear. And then probably, how, I don't know if it's that important, but maybe how you stack up Ole Miss, Alabama, Clemson at some point a little farther down the line. It could be important on the final Sunday for New Year's Six spots and all of that.
Rece Davis joining us. College Game Day, leaving Athens, heading to Austin. You tell me. You're the host. You've been to Knoxville twice, now Austin twice. Is this something that's ever happened before? I know you've been to the same place twice, a couple of times, but two cities twice.
This is my 8th year on the show, Paul. I don't remember that going now. Bear keeps a great log of where we've been. Maybe that has happened, that we've been two places twice in the same season during the last few years. I don't recall it off the top of my head. I know we went to Athens 2 times in 3 weeks, I think, last year. But, to do it twice, and really, with all due respect to Texas, and it's always a great time. We go there in a great city. We're following the TCU story to Texas. That's more of the reason we're there than anything else, because this is a pretty significant road test for them. There's an excellent chance, regardless of the outcome Saturday night, that this is the first of two meetings between Texas and TCU, though certainly Baylor will have something to say about that. But, I think that it's more so we're following the TCU story, and it just happens to be in Austin. But, certainly Texas has positioned itself to have a chance to still win the Big 12.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty clear, and I'm glad you said that because TCU really is the story. Texas, with a win, could really start to get back into a reasonably good year. Let me ask, and I asked you this a couple weeks ago, and I'm pained to continue asking, but I think so many people do care. What can you tell us about Lee Corso?
I can only tell you that I talked to him last week. I haven't spoken to him yet this week, but I plan to. Still recuperating, had hoped to be able to go. And so I mentioned this on the show Saturday morning. I asked him, hey, LC, is there anything that I can do for you, anything that we can do for you to help out that you need? And his response was, go kill him Saturday. That's all I need. So he sounded good. Obviously, the exact details of his medical situation are, between he and his doctors and his family. I don't know I'm not privy to those details, but I'm hopeful that he's recuperating will be back soon. But we are in contact with him and talking to him, and, still wishing for the best for him.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.